As happy as we were yesterday about the New York Jets' offensive performance in their season opening loss, looking at it a little further, I think they were even better than we initially suspected. I'm Glenn Naughton with JetNation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So it's funny, as I opened up the show yesterday, the post-game wrap-up, I started by saying no moral victories, but there were some encouraging signs. Aaron Glenn opened his press conference after the game by saying no moral victories. And I think it's great because I've seen it with so many coaches over the years, right? And I completely understand it. I'm not knocking it, or it's something about immediately after the game, right? Immediately after the game, you have to say no moral victories. We lost. That's all that matters. All losses are tough. There's like the catchphrases that are like mandatory with every head coach. Aaron Glenn, no different. Like I said, not knocking him. It's what coaches do. But then he comes out this morning and he says, I really like some of the things we saw on film. And I don't disagree with him. Those you could say moral victories, but I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's funny. I think it's, to me, when it's like, oh, no moral victories, like, so we shouldn't acknowledge the things that are going well as we hope the team improves. Like, no one's asking for a banner or a parade or a ceremony. But if you like a football team and they suck, and then all of a sudden they start doing things that don't, shouldn't you look at that and go, oh, that's a good sign? Like, that's what I do. And people are like, stop, that's moral victories. Stop talking about something they did well. Look, man, like, you can just be miserable about every single aspect no matter what. That's not me. That's not me. Aaron Glenn, happy with what he saw on film yesterday. Met with the media today. We'll talk about some of what Aaron Glenn said and some of what we've seen since the game ended, having gone back and watched some of the highlights. I'm trying to think. All 22 review is where we're starting that, but not complete. But let's take a look, right? So Aaron Glenn starts off, again, said disappointed in the loss as you would expect, but he said he was encouraged by a lot of what he saw on film. Again, you should expect that. One of the top things, and I mean, this is no secret, Sauce Gardner against DK Metcalf was phenomenal. The lone catch he gave up, which is crazy. Like, yeah, I think he had 2 PBUs. Can't get a PBU for that one because it was complete, but it short pass to Metcalf. Sauce gets a hand on it, bats it away. Should be a PBU. Should have been a shutout on the day for Sauce Gardner. Instead, the ball bounces off of a Steelers receiver, bounces back to DK Metcalf, who's on the ground, and it lands on him, and he hangs on. And it's a catch. I mean, look, give DK Metcalf credit, right? That's good concentration and all that, but it's certainly not a play where you look at Sauce and go, oh, man, I can't believe he gave up that catch. So Sauce was absolutely phenomenal, followed DK, and pretty much shut him down all day. I mean, he did shut him down. When the one catch you allow is an actual PBU that bounces off a dude, that's about as close as you can get to a shutout. The only part I didn't like, and I get it, he's not going to come out and dog a guy they just gave $36 million to after one game, but he had some praise for Brandon Stevens, who was getting smoked all day long. I think the numbers were 7 targets, 5 catches, a touchdown, 60 yards. In my mind, he got away with a DPI. He got flagged for another DPI. He was horrible. And I saw a few people say, oh, but he was in position. He was in. And that's what Aaron Glenn said. Some of those catches, Stevens is in position. He just got to get turned around and find the ball. That's fine for a rookie, but that was the biggest knock on him coming out of Baltimore. If you looked at what fans were saying and what, people who cover that team, the big criticism was, hey, the guy is often in position, but he just doesn't turn his head around. Kyle Wilson, anyone? Remember, I mean, how frustrating was that? Oh, look, he's right there. He's in the dude's hip pocket. Doesn't matter if you don't turn around and find the ball. Guys keep catching it. So I thought Stevens was bad. But listen, here's the thing, right? Let's give Aaron Glenn some time. We know he's had great success as a defensive coordinator, especially developing DBs. Maybe by week 5 or 6, we're looking at Brandon Stevens going, wow, looks like a different player. He's doing the right things. He's not only in position, but he's finding the ball, making plays on the ball. Maybe he'll become that guy. I'm not optimistic he will, but I'm going to say Aaron Glenn has, what he has done as a defensive coach earns him, a certain degree of respect. And it's like, okay, let's wait and see what AG and the coaching staff are able to do with this guy. He was asked about the benefit of having Sauce Gardner, and of course, just said, having a guy that can follow is fantastic. He was asked if he ever did it. He said he did do it as a player, which you would have expected. Pro Bowl corner that Aaron Glenn was, and he said one of the advantages to that, and you can understand it. You think back to Revis, and you remember they would talk about the degree to which he would study other receivers' tendencies. Whoever he was covering that week. And Aaron Glenn pointing that out with Sauce Gardner saying, when you tell a guy that's your guy this week, like you can really dig in and study that guy and look for tips, tendencies, things like that, tells that the guy might have in his preparation and the way he lines up and his stance, the way he comes out of his breaks. So this is something that Glenn thinks will benefit Sauce in that regard. And Jets fans have been calling for some time to use Sauce Gardner in this way. And it looks like that's going to be, I think a couple days before the game when I did a show and I said that's going to be one of the more interesting things to see. Let's see if this coaching staff asks Sauce Gardner to travel with the other team's best receiver. And they did, and it worked out well. And the Sauce haters are upset, because he was supposed to be terrible and he sucks and he flags and he holds and no. He's an elite two-time All-Pro who had a few bad games last year. That's all. That's all it is. Looks like Sauce is back and very happy about that. Aaron Glenn was asked about the John Simpson penalty. And as you would expect, right? He says, yeah, I want him to protect the quarterback. I want him to get after guys. But Aaron Glenn added, and I'm pretty sure he said it walking off at the half. There's ways to do that without getting a penalty. There's ways to sort of be an enforcer without crossing the line. And he talked about how the team was in good position to possibly kick a field goal in that spot. They were driving. They had a timeout. If that flag doesn't happen, they're one play away from field goal range, and they've got the timeout to stop the clock and set up. So obviously a frustrating play. Says he thinks John Simpson will learn from it. I don't expect that to be a problem. One pre-snap penalty yesterday. And he talked about how this Jets team, led the NFL in pre-snap penalties last year. Zero discipline under Robert Saleh. Zero. Zero. We don't need to beat that dead horse. We all saw it. We all lived through it. Robert Saleh did not do a good job of preparing his football team to play, and that was reflected in the constant pre-snap penalties, which the Jets offense didn't have to deal with yesterday. Breece Hall thought he looked great. Aaron Glenn, everybody did, obviously. Aaron Glenn talked about how good he looked, and he talked about how this offensive line wants to establish this identity as being a ultra-physical group of blockers, and they were exactly that. Overall, happy with the play of Justin Fields, as you would expect. We'll talk about Fields. We'll talk about some PFF grades here in a second, who PFF had at the top of their list of performers, the bottom of their list, offense, defense. Kenny Nwangwu has a hamstring. He's the only real injury that's being looked at a little closer. And Alan Lazard, the inactive, he was asked about that. Aaron Glenn said, listen, Alan missed 2 weeks at camp. We wanted to make sure he's on the same page with everybody before we play him. We'll see if that's legit. I think a trade may be brewing. And look, we've all talked about that for some time now, that dealing him makes a ton of sense. Aaron Rodgers is gone. Pittsburgh needs a receiver. You've played your game now. There's no inside intel to benefit Pittsburgh. See if they'll give you a day 3 pick, conditional, maybe a pick swap. You give us a 6, we'll give you a 7 in Lazard, something like that. But even without Lazard yesterday, who again, the drops are frustrating, but he's not as bad a player as fans get on him for. But he still is maddening with the drops. I'm not saying he isn't. But the Jets put up 32 yesterday. And I said this. I said after the game, I said, when's the last time the Jets scored 32 points against a quality opponent? And I don't mean like an elite, I'm not talking 85 Bears. Just like a good defense. So I took a look. I thought, I'm going to go back 5 years. I'm not going to go back 10. There's no need for that. I'm not going to look at 10 years of opponents to find the best team they scored 32 against. But the last 5 years, The Jets have managed to score 32 points just 4 times, which is insane in today's NFL. Teams put up 32 plus. Well, good teams do. I guess that's the caveat, right? The Jets are not good, or have not been good for a very long time. So over the past 5 years, we've seen it 4 times that the Jets have managed to put up 32 points. 2024, and I mentioned this one yesterday. They did it against the Jaguars in Week 15 and the Dolphins in Week 18. Late season was essentially over. Nobody cared. Jets were out of the playoffs. Those teams stunk. I forget what Miami's record was, but it was final week of the season. The Jets were not good at all. We know what a mess they were last year. The previous year didn't happen. At no point, against no opponent, did the Jets put up 32 points. The previous year, 2022, one game of 32 points or more. That was a 40 against the Miami Dolphins again. That was the Skylar Thompson game. I mean, if you're not going to get the ball past midfield because your quarterback doesn't belong in the NFL, you're going to put up some points if you're functional. So hardly a juggernaut that the Jets put up 40 against that week. 2021 Week 8 against the Cincinnati Bengals, the Mike White game. Mike White, 400-plus yards. Jets put up 40. Fluky. Bengals weren't very good. No film on Mike White. Went out there and lit the thing up. That was, that was a game that unbelievable when you think back to that the guy was able to put up that many yards. Bang Mateo, real quick in the chat. Arthur Smith exploited the holes in the Jets defense. Listen, there was one really big hole in the defense that I would say Aaron Rodgers exploited and just went after Stevens all day long. Again, 5 out of 7 for 6. And I would guess most of those came in the final sort of 20 minutes of play where they realized, all right, we got a gold mine here in Brandon Stevens. Let's just go after that guy. And Aaron Rodgers just wanted to find him and throw the ball in that direction. So that was 2021. It happened once, the Mike White game. 2020 didn't happen. Did not score 32 points or more. Going back to the last time they did it, here's what I put down. And I'm not saying the Raiders were any great shakes back then. But when Sam Darnold had that stretch where the Jets, this was a weird one, right? The Jets scored exactly 34 points 3 weeks in a row. 34, 34, 34. 3 weeks in a row. You don't see that from the Jets. However, the first 34 came against the 2-8 Giants. The second 34 came against the 1-9. I think they were still the Redskins back then. And the third 34 came against the Raiders, who weren't very good, but at least they had a winning record. That was a 6-5 team. Jets put up 34 against them. So it hasn't happened often, folks, that we've seen this team put up big totals against the quality defense. Normally when it's happened, it's a late season, meaningless game again, that nobody cares about, or it's a game against a team that just is not good at all. Again, you did it twice against teams that had a combined record of 3-17. So it doesn't happen often. Does not happen often. Lauren in the chat. How we doing, Lauren? Says the offense looked promising. Absolutely. The work they did in camp looked good. Hall and Wilson looked great. Agreed. Fields made the detractors look silly. Absolutely. And listen, I've said a million times, immensely talented guy, but has to do some things better. And I said this morning. If you look at that deep ball to Garrett Wilson, the touchdown, and you look at every deep ball he completed last year, the one to Wilson, by far the best deep ball we've seen from Justin Fields, at least going back to all of his starts last year. And I've talked about that on this show. I've talked about how the deep ball, he has the arm strength, and you do see a good deep ball from him from time to time, but it has to be more consistent. They were again, I think he completed six deep balls last year. One of them, George Pickens, is like slowing down, adjusting, and falling back to his right to get to the ball and reach it. Like it was taking some pretty extreme effort with some of these. With Garrett Wilson in stride, didn't even have to, just right there, put it right where it had to be. That's perfection. Beautiful ball from Justin Fields. My favorite throw on the day from Fields came on the completion of Jeremy Ruckert over the middle. And I think I talked about this after the game last night. An absolute bullet squeezed in between two defenders. Ruckert, great job hanging on. That to me, those are like two of the most encouraging throws that I saw from Justin Fields. And again, a couple where he was under pressure, under duress, kept his eyes down the field, got the ball to the receiver. I really thought that I can't say enough about how Justin Fields, at least in my mind, was much better than he looked at any point. And like I said, I haven't watched every single one of his starts, but I've watched enough of them to understand why the Jets are his third team in 3 years. It's like, okay, he has flashes, he has moments, but they're few and far between. So game one, I'm trying all I can to stay chill. Like, that was a really good game. And I see fans like going nuts. And look, I'm not saying don't enjoy it. That was one of the best offensive games we've seen from the Jets in a very, very long time. So enjoy it. Look, what I call this episode, right? Offense is better than we thought. I'm giving all the credit to Justin Fields that he deserves. I'm giving credit to the offensive line, the receivers. They did a lot of things well. But it's one game, and I don't want to lose my mind and be like, oh, that's it. They found their guy. Fields. Listen, Justin Fields plays like this the next 3, 4, 5 weeks. Get you in the look. I don't need 32 points every week. It'd be nice. But look, 26, even that's sort of a impossible number for the Jets to hit in recent years. Get a few touchdowns, a couple field goals, even 2 touchdowns, a couple field goals. Enough with the 9-point totals. Enough with the Jets didn't score a touchdown today. Enough with the Jets lose 31-14. Enough of that. Be a threat. Make things happen. That's what we saw yesterday. I suspect we're going to see more of that as the season goes on. Again, the play from Fields, the hanging in the pocket, and let's again, giving credit where it's due, offensive line did a great job. I mean, we can talk about how Fields played, but having the time he needed to throw on so many of those plays was huge. Armand Membu. I feel bad. I can't even remember. See, I'm so tired when I jump on and do those post games. The next day, I'm like, did I mention Membu? Did I shout him out? I must have. I can't imagine there's a world in which I didn't praise Armand Membu in the post game yesterday, but I'm going to bring him up again now because what a performance from him. He was just absolutely phenomenal. Take a look on Twitter. We got Shane Sullivan breaking down some of the offensive line play for us. I think it's at SullyJN. Just hopped on, created his account. As you see in his bio, Shane's a former Division III offensive lineman, lifelong Jets season ticket holder. He's had him since he was 2. So he loves this team, bleeds green, and knows the game. And he's been shooting out, firing off some tweets this morning. I'm trying to find a couple from him and pass along the screen name. But yeah, I mean, check my account at JNRadio_Glenn. Pop that up there. Give me a follow. You'll see some of the tweets I retweeted this morning from Shane, and again, some great work there. So the Membu, and let's give credit. Let's give credit to Josh Myers. Did a nice job. Wasn't a world beater. Wasn't elite, but he was certainly better than I expected, and better than a lot of people expected based on how folks were talking prior to the game. I'm going to hop on real quick. I tweeted this out earlier. The Jets' top offensive performers and their worst offensive performers, according to Pro Football Focus. And this is, guys, we're going to go with 15 being the number. You got to play at least 15 snaps. I'm not going to give a guy's number who played 5 snaps. So 15 snaps minimum, but these guys all played a ton, so that wouldn't even apply. Top 5 grades on offense for the New York Jets per PFF. Everyone hates PFF until the grades are good for their team. Oh, I love PFF. They said Sauce is elite. But anyway, I've always liked PFF enough. I don't think they're perfect, but I like them. Armand Membu, number one graded offensive player. How insane is that? The guy's like 15 years old, first NFL game, going against TJ Watt, and he earns the highest grade on the roster on offense per PFF. Membu comes out with an 89 and very good in all areas, 78.6 pass blocker, 90.3 run blocker. Your number 2 offensive player, Garrett Wilson, 86.1. Your number 3 offensive player, Justin Fields, 82.2. Your number 4 offensive player, Breece Hall, 81.5. And your number 5, let's see it. Let's see a big year. And by big, I mean like a few hundred yards. Jeremy Ruckert, Ohio State tight end. I mean, it's not just that he's a lifelong Jets fan. It's the fact that, as I've been saying since his rookie year, as I've watched him do nothing, and I'm just going, this guy's better than this. He's not a guy who should be putting up 50 yards a season. Again, I'm not saying he's Jason Kelce. Or Travis Kelce, sorry. He's not a guy who's going to be the best tight end in the NFL, but he's certainly not a guy who should be going months at a time without a catch. So nice to see that for him, and a really good catch, as I said. Might be his best catch as a pro. That ball that found its way through. That was squeezed between 2 defenders, because that makes that catch even tougher. So nice to see him sort of contribute with a couple of impressive plays. Lowest grades, 5 lowest grades on offense for the Jets. Slightly surprising, John Simpson, bottom of the list, 48.1. Braylon Allen had the touchdown, but he had, 8 carries for 9 yards, something like that, 49.9. Mason Taylor, rookie tight end, 56.1. Josh Reynolds, wide receiver, only had a couple catches, 58.2. And that's the top 4. The 5th, Olu Fashanu, 62.5, which isn't terrible. 62.5 isn't a bad day. I know he gave up a sack, but that's Jets have been in far worse positions where guys' grades are like in the 10s. So 62, while it's the 5th worst, it's not a bad day. Defensively, number 1 grade, Quinnen Williams at 92.0, Sauce Gardner at 90.3, Will McDonald at 75.5, Jermaine Johnson 73.1, Andre Cisco 68.4. It was the other safety, and Cisco wasn't perfect, but it was Tony Adams who had the lowest grade of the day on defense for the Jets at 39.4. Michael Clemens, D-end, 44.3. Jay Tufeli, 17 snaps, but still hits that threshold, 51.4. Michael Carter, who had a huge missed tackle early on, 51.8. And Brandon Stevens, who really, it feels like he should be bottom of the list. He is 53.5. So those are your 5 worst performances for the Jets on defense. Your best, your worst, your offense, your defense. Plenty of good, plenty of bad, but just all very, offensively, it's so encouraging. I can't be mad about it. I just can't. It's I would say many steps beyond an offense showing signs of life. This offense showed that they can at times be dominant and be an offense that teams have to worry about a little bit. So I don't mind. I'm not obviously not thrilled with the loss, but really liked it, like how they played. Real quick, we'll hop back in the chat and then wrap this one up. Let's see. Mr. Magic says, yeah, pass defense was disappointing, 100%. Other than Sauce, absolutely. Sauce was fantastic. Let's see. Eddie Torino says people are crapping on the secondary, but we played against Rodgers and DK. It's going to be expected sometimes. Somewhat. I get that, but missed tackles, not, again, Stevens being in position and not turning around to find the ball. I mean, no matter who the quarterback is, if you're in position to make a play and you don't even turn around to look to make a play, that's not so much who the quarterback is as it is the player. And again, it's especially concerning with him because that's been the knock on him since getting here. When Ravens fans would talk about how teams are going to pick on him when they need a big play, there were a lot of comments from folks who have watched him every week saying the dude's going to be there, but it ain't going to matter because he's not going to turn around. He's not going to find the ball. So, and the touchdown where he just fell. The receiver just ran right past him. It's like falling forward, lost his footing, gone, no chance. By the time he turned around, the ball was in the air and the receiver was hauling it in for the touchdown. Lauren says the real question is, what does Glenn do with the defensive backs? I think Malachi Moore is one big step towards starting, and Azariah Thomas. I don't know how many weeks of Stevens you can tolerate this with. Aaron Glenn, like I said, he's earned some respect at what he does and some credit. So let's give it a little bit of time. But someone said to me on Twitter, "Oh, you're giving up on the guy after one game." This ain't his first game. Like, this is him doing what he's done for his whole career. So I'm not basing it on one game. You think if he was a rookie, I'd be like, "Oh, that's it for this guy." No, I'm looking at it going, that's what this guy's always done. And again, first game, yes, but he's been getting coached all month. He's had a month every single day. Well, not every day, but you know what I mean. Many, many practices with Aaron Glenn, with the entire staff. And I would imagine they recognized this stuff on film when they signed him. So it just wasn't encouraging at all. It was depressing watching him try to cover. Lawrence says the Pitt offense wasn't that good. Rodgers did make some good throws, but I get what you're saying there, Lauren. Like, the Jets helped them out a lot. And you're not wrong about that. Yeah, I haven't seen that play yet on all 22, Lauren. There were a couple plays where I wondered, is he forcing the ball to Garrett? But it could be a situation where he's basically not, or where Garrett's the only guy who's close to open. Or even if Garrett's covered, if everyone's covered, you may as well go to Garrett. He's the guy you're most comfortable with. He's your best player. Like, all right, nobody's open, but I got to throw it. Where's my best guy? Right? Or he's the only guy that's open, so I'm going to my best guy. So that's kind of the way some of that transpires, but I haven't seen that play on the all-22 yet. Eric says Garrett was triple teamed on the 2-point conversion. That was pathetic. I said at the time, I tweeted it during the game. I said it after the game. I wasn't going to kill Fields for it because he was so good all day, but that one was a head scratcher. Like, back corner of the end. Someone said double covers. That was triple. There were 3 defenders around Garrett Wilson on that 2-point try. There must have been either, run it or find another option because you can't be throwing into triple coverage. Let's see, why not? Guessing a Seer Pone. I'm guessing that was supposed to say something else. To Arian Smith on the final drive. Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't see him get any targets. Did the Steelers have safeties? They couldn't keep up with him. Offense was better. Let's not overreact. Yeah, like I said, I'm not overreacting. I'm excited because it was some of the best work I've seen from Fields. Like, that's just exciting. If you're a fan and you haven't had a quarterback in a millennia, and you get a guy with a very high ceiling who has had lots of issues, and in his first game, he does a lot of the things you were worried he hasn't done in the past, that's like, oh, that's good. That's a really good sign. Now, listen, if he goes out next week and throws 3 interceptions and the Jets scored 9 points, then it's back to, okay, what's this going to be here? Is there going to be no consistency? That was something we talked about through camp. Saw it almost daily with the reporters, one day to the next. Very good day for Fields. Bad day for Fields. Solid day for Fields. Bad day for Fields. There was never a stretch. There was never a run of like, wow, he's put together like 4 or 5 good practices in a row. We never heard of that. So that's, you want to see some consistency from him. Brian in the chat says this is how young, good teams lose. I'm assuming that's supposed to say good. Say goose. Last year and before, we had guys quitting and coaches clueless. The D can be coached up. The head coach can and will make better head coach decisions. See, that's the key thing here, is that the defense has been good for so long. I mean, again, last year after the Saleh firing, I feel like a lot of guys mailed it in. They knew the season was over and it fell apart. But when that defense was playing, I mean, you can't even say meaningful games. They didn't play any of those. But when they were playing as a unit, when there was some cohesion there, they were a very, very good defense, and the offense was always terrible. Well, now you've made some changes. You may have, we said at the time, DJ Reed leaving, significant downgrade to Stevens. But if Aaron Glenn can get this unit playing anywhere close to what they had been in recent years, and this offense keeps producing, like, this could be a fun year. Imagine that, Jets fans. Imagine us watching football and having fun and cheering for good things. Not really something we've become accustomed to over the past decade plus. So, yes, some very good signs yesterday. Very encouraging. Aaron Glenn coming out in his presser saying he was encouraged after watching the film. As I said yesterday, and again today, some really good stuff, but let's calm down. The Membu debut was phenomenal. Olu gave up 1 sack, but was still very good. Tipman at guard looked good. It just all around offensively, could they use another weapon? Absolutely. We'll see what happens with Lazard. He is an option there. Again, not a great player, but let's put it this way. He's been more productive than anyone else on the roster at receiver outside of Garrett Wilson. So in terms of a track record and showing he can be at least a decent pass catcher, it's hard to argue Lazard wouldn't make them a little bit better. Especially you line him up in the slot as a big slot. I think he can be a weapon there. But we shall see. Real quick, we'll close this one out. Brian in the chat, when Salah was fired, they quit. I don't disagree. I think that's when we saw Sauce not really sticking his face in the fan and, avoiding tackles, avoiding contact. I think guys were beat up, were demoralized, and had a month or so where they had to kind of recalibrate. So we'll see. Encouraging signs. That's yesterday I got out of this team more than I expected. That makes me happy. It's a good sign moving forward. Bills are up next. We'll be on and off throughout the week talking about stories as they develop. As we review film, things of that nature. We're going to wrap this one up. We'll see you